In a CNN interview, Democratic Senator John Fetterman just said what a lot of Democrats won't admit. They've forgotten why they lost and need to stop calling Trump an autocrat. Because let's be honest, Trump was elected, he's not some dictator, and every time Democrats throw around that label, they look weak and out of touch with real voters. So, Mike, is this name calling doing Democrats more harm than good?
Yes. Yep. They need to move on. They need to move on. They got to get off the Trump, off the Epstein, off the he's a felon, off he raped some girl 300 years ago. Nobody cares. And when I say nobody, I mean his supporters, who, by the way, voted him in and were obviously over 51%. They don't care. So no, those arguments are not going to work. In order for the Democrats or the people on the left to regain control, they need to get some of those people that are in the middle onto their team. So they need to start using arguments that are not negative but positive towards what their agenda is. And as you have so eloquently stated on this podcast a million times, it has to be the 80% rule. They've got to pick some things that most people in America actually give a damn about. And this, if anything, this election showed we don't give a shit about transgender rights. We don't give a shit about what flag you can fly here and there and what letter you're putting your name and who we don't. There's not. When I say we don't care, what I mean is there's not enough people that are affected personally. Because when it comes down to a vote, particularly on the national level, it usually comes down at the end of the day to economics. And the reality is you're going to vote with your paycheck. And if you feel like whoever's coming in is going to make you and your family better off, then that's who you're voting for. So at the end of the day, if there's some guy that wants to play on the girls' soccer team, you really don't give a shit because that isn't going to put food on your dining room table. And unfortunately, the Democrats have taken a path of, I don't know, I guess they want to protect every single life form. It's the only way and I'm not a Democrat, and obviously that comes across, but I'm also not a Republican. I don't like Trump. I don't like the autocratic thing that's going on. I don't like this takeover. I don't like this heavy-handed, highly presidential controlled government that we've now gone to, which, by the way, I think is forever. I don't think it's going to go away. I think whoever comes next, regardless of whether they're a Republican or Democrat, is going to look. If a Democrat gets elected next term, they're going to be like, "Hey, the stuff that Trump made us stronger. This is good." They're not going to get rid of that. So,
So, first, Mike, thank you for repeatedly giving me credit for coming up with the 80-20 thing.
I use it all the time.
Because people, I hear them using it all the time and nobody believes. No, I've been saying that for about 2 years.
Yep. Phil has been saying this forever and he's dead on.
But
you called the election. Phil, of all my friends, I think called the fact that Trump was going to win the election earlier than anybody else that I know, by far.
But with this 80-20 thing, there's also the idea of sometimes you're in a situation where you're forced to take the 20 in certain situations. But there are a lot of things that they could be addressing that they don't, that are very reasonable. Like the economy is still like crap. There are so many parts of the economy that they could just dissect and hammer home that the average everyday American would be listening to them totally relating with. And that's the main reason why the Republicans are in office right now, is because they were saying relatable things. And there's a bunch of relatable stuff that they could address that the Republicans are not doing. So I just don't understand the choices. Let's choose the ones we can't win versus these good ones that are just like delicious to use.
It's and I'll use the Epstein thing as an example of this. They're still talking about this. At the end of the day, not enough people really care They just don't care. It happened a long time ago. If Trump actually did something that was illegal and they had proof, it would have came out by now. So like this is just it doesn't, who cares?
Calling
It's
for the Epstein files is like just something cool to say, like saying no Diddy.
Yep. 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 And there's probably just as many people on the left that are going to get implicated in it as on the right. So at the end of the day, it's just noise. And by the way, Donald Trump has taken this to the next level. He has used this. I would argue, and I know this sounds backwards, but I would argue his felony charges and his accusations that he raped somebody and the Epstein drama and all this stuff helps him. And I think he knows it helps him. And he uses all this because he's like a distraction bomber. And he just tosses things in different directions. And he says crazy stuff sometimes. And all of this is picked up by the other side and they latch onto it like it's hot potato. And the Democrats go, "Oh, hot potato, let me hold on to this." And then they don't let go. They don't hand it off to the next guy. And that's the problem. And Trump knows this by now. So,
Mm,
he gets away with saying crazy stuff. And at this point, that's his MO. And we've known this now for 10 years. It's not going to change. So, guys, you got to come up with something different.
but you can especially get away with saying crazy stuff when the opposition fights for even crazier stuff.
Exactly. Yep.
They
You're right.
literally make the crazy man look insane.
Yep. Yeah, they come up with some of these things that they want to do or talk about. It's like, wait a minute here. Why are you spending, if you have a 3-hour news conference, they spend 2.5 hours talking about something that affects, one person in the entire city. And it's like, I don't get it.
So, Mike, this whole podcast today has pretty much been about free speech in one way or another.
Yep.
And to me, the thing that I take away from it is that it's so important that it was very easily to talk about it for over an hour. I wasn't
Well,
trying to stretch it out. I still have so much to say about it.
well, let's bring it back to us for a second. Do you think there's ever going to be a chance that we get banned from Apple or Spotify or YouTube or some other outlet because who knows? We say something that somebody doesn't like.
You just answered it yourself, and we've just described what the culture is throughout the hour. There's a culture in society that would allow for someone to be pissed off about something we said, whether it's right or wrong, and we'd be just out. Absolutely, yeah.
And that's the problem is like, we're a little bit more independent of it because we can move to, there's many platforms out there. Somebody will host us. So, because we do it, we're self-produced basically. So we have a lot more control over, say, if you and I worked on, for ABC or something. But I mean, there could be a point at which censorship here, this is what I don't like about it. It's a very slippery slope. Right now, the FCC can control the major networks. They can control things like this. They are obviously giving us slant control based on who's in power right now. But that is a slippery slope because we also know that we have a bunch of oligarchs that are running the government. So next thing you know, you get Zuckerberg and you get Google and you get who owns YouTube, by the way, and you get Tim Cook who owns Apple. And all of a sudden, there could be a bunch of podcast formats, as an example, that no longer do what we do because Trump told them, "Hey, Tim, you can't have Phil and Mike on Apple no more." Mike said that I was he didn't like me.
Uh,
That
I,
could happen.
I absolutely see something like that happening in the very near future. And I believe the main person that they will be attacking is YouTube. Now, I know that sometimes people play chess, so they may attack somebody that's in the same industry, but
Hmm.
it's to set the precedent to apply it to a bigger company. That's how they like to do it, because if they
Hmm.
address the big elephant in the room, he'll stomp them with his money.
Right.
So But I think YouTube is going to become a serious target real fast. We may be coming back next week and the whole thing be about what is YouTube going to do?
Yep.
Because uh, YouTube is one of the last easy places to know about, access, and share with
Yeah.
others.
Particularly video.
And because I went like when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I saw because I went to YouTube almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
There were actual videos of the whole thing all the way
Yep.
through. There were people who were covering it live, and you got to see the whole thing. They
Yep.
swiped all those things after the fact, but
Yep.
they were on there.
Yep.
So the point I'm in, and then there are ideas. I often hear ideas that are counter to everything, counter to good, counter to bad, counter to what's an appropriate age for children to have sex. I hear all kind of conversations on this
Yep.
YouTube.
Yep.
So I see them being attacked and attacked easily because there are credible reasons to put some parameters up and rules because there's some crazy stuff on YouTube.
And look at the other fear while we're talking about freedom of speech is that they just announced this week that TikTok is being bought by Americans, or at least TikTok in America. And if you look at the list of investors in that, that's a Donald Trump controlled group. Like, let's just call it what it is. So I see that that's one more way of censoring or controlling media. I think Trump, he's no dumb cookie, and he's been in media for his whole life. He is basically taking over the media. And if you guys haven't paid attention to history, the first thing that a dictator does, or a closed society in a country, is take over the media. And like, if you don't think he's trying to take over the media, you're dumb as a box of rocks.
Forgive me for not remembering who said it because it's some famous smart person that I should know their name. But they said the quickest way to control the people is not with guns, but with the printing press.
Absolutely. Yep.
You heard that before?
Yep. Absolutely. And I think to some extent, that's actually become even more true into today's society. Gone are the printing presses. However, now our printing press is like live, broadcast to you immediately, no time delay whatsoever.
Bro, in my lifetime, let's just take the shooting. Uh, I remember when John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
They did not show a full clip, a Zapruder clip until the 80s.
That's right.
It was always like once in a while you'd get this big announcement that some show was going to give you a little bit like
Yep.
him driving and then it would stop before the shot or it'd be
Yep.
after or they'd show you the grassy knoll. And now we're to the point where it's just like watching a
Yep.
violent video game.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, for sure.
Anything else you want to say, Mike?
Wow. Wow. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast because I did. I got some things off my chest, I think.
I always enjoy talking to you, Mike. I know I'm going to have an intelligent conversation. All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.